Welcome. Good to have you all here. Great crowd. Welcome to the Bloomington Rotary Club's weekly celebration of service, September 24th, 2019. Byron Bangert, will you please come up and give us the pledge, lead the pledge and reflection.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. This afternoon, I want to tell you about Hermann Ebbinghaus, a noted 19th century German psychologist who was a researcher on memory, chiefly his own. He was the first person to describe the learning curve. In 1885, he published perhaps the most memorable finding of his career, his work on the forgetting curve. The forgetting curve graphically illustrates how exponentially fast we forget newly acquired knowledge and information. The rate of forgetting, fortunately, slows over time, but the sharpest decline occurs in the first 20 minutes, and the decay is significant through the first hour. The loss levels off somewhat after the first day. We remember only a fraction of what our brains take in. Most facts, timelines, expressions, and even experiences fade in vague impressions much faster than we'd like to admit. Now, memory's been on my mind a lot recently because my wife and I moved into a condo back in December, and since then we've spent a lot of time sifting through major accumulations of stuff, including letters and papers and family documents, mementos, and photos. I went through all of my professional files and I threw away over half of what was there, but also kept a considerable amount. The most poignant were the things that I had forgotten. People and incidents and events that filled my life and are now mostly forgotten, even by me. I can only imagine how little will be remembered by others when I'm gone. I've tried to save the things that I still consider worth remembering. I am trying to do what I can to preserve the important memories, and the fact that new knowledge and information is quickly forgotten tells me that I need to pay close attention and try harder to remember what matters in my current day-to-day. Now, given how quickly we forget, did it really make any sense for me to share this information with you? Or will you soon forget it? Hey, and what was the name of that German psychologist? Thanks.
Thank you, Byron, for that immensely forgettable reflection. And now Sarah Laughlin is going to finish chewing on and come up and introduce the guests.
We have 4 guests today, some very familiar. Bob Hamill, retired from the Herald Telephone, sports writer. Ian Rabenstein, a guest of Liz Irwin. Zach Bowe, guest of Bryce Bowe. And Father Tom Kovac from St. Charles. Welcome to all of you, and feel free to come back anytime. If you want to know more about Rotary, just ask anyone at your table. Oh, I'm supposed to do one more thing. I'm supposed to give you a toast update. So, many of you know this is the 5th annual Rotary Toast, and this year we're honoring Carrie Curry, who for many years has been instrumental in supporting the arts and culture in Bloomington, notably the IU Auditorium and many other things. And he has now established a fund at the Community Foundation, which has already funded 18 community agencies in less than 2 years. So he's been very philanthropic, and you may have bought a Buick from him as well. We are the sponsors of the Toast, as you know, and the proceeds of that event help us match the district grant every year. So you're going to hear about going to Wonder Lab in a little bit. When you hear about that, you'll know that half of the money that we were able to leverage another $3,000 from the money that we took in from the Toast. So here's the ugly truth. Our club has the lowest percentage of people coming at this point to the Toast. And we don't want to be embarrassed. It's a glittery night for Rotary. There are lots of people in the room who are not familiar with Rotary. We all wear our fanciest clothes and our Rotary pins and our Paul Harris pins. And there's a lot of interest in the room about what Rotary's doing. So we want to be there with bells on. So if you're like I am, needing somebody to go with, just ask any of us. We're going to have a table for our club. We'll have more than one table if we can swing it. We have some sponsors in the club who will have tables full of people they're bringing. But don't be a stranger. Do come by yourself. Come with a partner. If you want to, you'll know most everybody in the room, and everybody there will be very friendly and welcoming. So we need to see you there. Natalie keeps the books for the Toast, so you can get a ticket from her at any time. So I'll see you there, November 1st at the Woolery Mill, new location, glittery affair.
Thank you, Sarah. And I do want to thank today's greeter, Glenn Steenberger, photographer, Charlie Osborne, and Community Access Television Services. And then our reporter, roundabout reporter for this week, Bill Oates. In terms of the Rotary family, we have some birthdays this week. Jack McCrory is September 26th, and Joe King, who is here, is September 27th. So happy birthday. Membership anniversaries, John Berida, 6 years. Efrat Pfefferman, 1 year. Joe King, 1 year. Yolanda Trevino, 17 years. And Bill Perkins, 15 years. Rotarians in the news. Glenda Murray received an Area 10 Agency on Aging Senior Salute Award for her volunteer work at Monroe County History Center. Stone Belt recognized Leslie Green for 40 years of service as executive director. Okay, and now Lauren Snyder will do a presentation.
Woo! Wake this sucker up. Woo! Yeah, thanks. Jim, how do I wake this up? Oh, there it is. Got it? Now you gotta log on. You haven't shared your super secret password with me.
Yeah, there is none. That's the secret.
Now we all know there is no secret password. Close that one out. It's right there.
This one.
We have two
Click there.
cybersecurity.
Nope, you just closed it. Not that one.
Okay. Sorry.
How do we get back to your email? What
It's-
that link is.
It's going to take a while.
Okay, all right. We're gonna. We have funded over in Myanmar a water that is currently serving a village of over 500 people on a daily basis. They have access to clean potable water every single day to drink, to bathe, and provide hygiene for a lot of these statistics over here, the most striking of which in my art fair project over there that I went back to my second grade class on, but the most striking statistic to me is every 2 minutes a child dies because of a lack of access to clean water. That's unacceptable to me. We all, in my opinion, take it myself included, a little bit for granted. We play in it, we swim in it, we do all of these things, and most people just have the desire to simply drink it and provide some hygiene in their day-to-day lives. So, this project is still yet to be fully funded from our club, and so this is my formal ask to you. These things take money. It took $9,000 from our club to put this well in Myanmar. We'd filled up the well just over $2,000. We need to fill that well up. So Natalie has a letter to each of you from Jim and myself, the International Service Committee chairs, asking each of you for your personally appropriate contribution to our water project. Please take your letter, consider it with your spouse or whomever you make your charitable considerations with, and then I'm personally going to follow up with everybody, which, yes, I understand and hear no regularly. I have no problem with that because I know we have different passion projects, but I would strongly ask for your consideration, and Jim would as well, as we fill up the well for our Myanmar water project. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you, Lauren and Jim. I have some announcements, but I'm going to delay those, put those into the roundabout, please. Make sure you check. But the one I will make is that our annual holiday party will be Thursday, December 12th at the Country Club. And now for Happy Dollars. Briefly this time, we'd like to get a bunch in. What are you happy about? Ann Connors.
I'm happy about the Wonder Lab, Sprouts Lab that we helped fund is opening October 5th. Yeah, cheer over there. And I put on everyone's table a sign-in form. We still need a lot of volunteers. We commit to the district to help get us those $3 grand. Then we're gonna fill up volunteer opportunities. So if you want to fill up put your name on this. Natalie also sends out an email, but if you put your name on this, I'm going to collect them and I'll make sure there aren't any overlaps because we need a lot of space. It'll be a lot of fun helping the kids get to know the lab, and here's more information about the. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Good. Charlie, on the way to Jim Shea.
I know many of you have had what I call kangaroo children. They leave, they go to college, and they come home. And they leave, and then they come home. I had 4 of them. They're all in their 40s. This last weekend, I got 2 of them in there. And now I can get my other car in the garage. There was a lot of, but Mom said that was for me. After we got past that kind of baloney, got rid of a lot of stuff. If ever happens to you, one of the things you got to do is keep them moving because they stop, they find a box, and like you were talking about, the memories just start coming back in that. You got to keep them moving out the door, y'all. Don't let them stop. Let them take it and pack it up wherever they're going. And $1 well spent.
Fitting right in with our speaker today, I was delighted to go to Newcastle last Thursday to the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame with our fellow Rotarian Phil Eskew, who is royalty, by the way, to nominate a good friend of mine, Joe Suter, for inclusion in the hall. If you haven't been, it's definitely worth a day trip to go see the Indiana High School Basketball Hall of Fame.
Okay, more happiness. Martha? Oh.
Great event coming up. The NAACP has its 41st annual Freedom Fund banquet on October 5th, a Saturday. I'm on the organizing committee, and our own Jim Sims will be the moderator for the evening, and Dawn Johnson is speaking, so it'll be a great event, and you can get tickets at ECT box office. So join us.
I'm happy about Ann, who did my job for me. Come and volunteer for Science Sprouts Play's opening. It's going to be a lot of fun at Wonder Lab.
Thank you, Amy. And
Ashley.
Just a reminder, everybody, please come out to the Boys and Girls Club tomorrow night for our Rotary Centennial Celebration Playground Ribbon Cutting. It's a mouthful. 5:30, we'll have refreshments. 6 o'clock, we'll do the photo op. All the kids will be released to play and enjoy the beautiful playground, and it's a must-see, so come out tomorrow night.
Thank you. We're also encouraging members from the other 2 Rotary clubs to attend. And this is a big one. And Mike Baker led the charge on this for the Centennial. Other happy dialers.
Okay. Thank you, Joy. And now, Jim Bright is going to introduce our program.
Thank you, President Aaron. And I just want to say, like a lot of you, I am a huge Indiana high school basketball fan. So today is a big treat for me, as it is for all of you. It's my pleasure to introduce to you today the winningest coach in the history of Indiana basketball. On February 21st of this year, J.R. Holmes' Bloomington South Panthers beat Northview 63-24, giving J.R. a total of 807 victories and eclipsing longtime Lagodi coach Jack Butcher's previous record of 806. The Panthers' win generated major news coverage across the U.S. and even across the Hoosier State here. And JR received congratulatory messages from people like Boston Celtics coach Brad Stevens, Purdue coach Matt Painter, IU coach Archie Miller, former UCLA coach and IU legend Steve Alford, and others. Now, JR began his high school coaching career at Tunnelton in 1970, and 2 years later, he became the head coach of the Mitchell Blue Jackets, where he stayed for 10 years. In 1983-84, JR moved to Bloomington South, his current home, and in 1985, he won his first of 20 sectional titles. His teams have also won 2 state championships, and his 2008-2009 team went undefeated. He was inducted into the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame in Newcastle back in 2012. JR has had the pleasure of coaching and developing some of the best basketball talent in the history of Indiana basketball. And he has coached against some of the best coaches and players in the USA. JR enters his 50th season as head basketball coach with 810 wins. That's 15 ahead of Lawrence North's Jack Kiefer, the only serious challenger among Indiana high school basketball coaches. Fellow Rotarians, please join me in a warm welcome for the winningest coach in the state of Indiana, J.R. Holmes.
Very kind introduction. I appreciate that, and thank you for the opportunity to come here today. I had this speech made up and had some really good jokes, but I see you brought a priest. I see you brought a lot of ladies, but the one I'm scared the most of is my boss, Dr. DeMuse. So I don't have anything prepared, so if you have a question, fire it this way. I really thought this was going to be a twofer for me, because Mr. Rice, I could bring somebody to the luncheon if I wanted to, so I asked my wife, I said, would you like to come? She says, I'll come. I said, well, this is our anniversary today, and this will be our dinner that I'm going to buy you, so we'll get it free. So she turned that down and went antiquing with her identical twin sister. She's up from Columbia. So I'm here by myself. I don't know what the topic was. He said something about the difference in Indiana basketball. As he alluded to, this is my 50th year, so my basketball goes way back almost to the Peach Baskets when we used to start. All of you who have seen Hoosiers, I lived it. I went to a school called Needmore High School. We were really big. We had 170 kids in high school, and our teams and our fans were just like you saw in the movie. I started out my coaching at a school called Tunnelton, and we had 92 kids in 4 grades. and it was really like Hoosiers. The whole town closed down every time we had a game, and it was, no offense, Dr. Muth, but it was one of the greatest jobs I ever had at Tunnelton. I had a little office, I had a couch, I lived in Bloomington, I slept up there. They had a pool hall, we played pool, and everybody liked basketball, so I was living the life. So, but again, I had some things to take care of. We moved to Mitchell for 10 years. And then it came the chance to come to Bloomington South, only because Steve Alford's dad, Sam Alford, turned the job down. Steve was going to be a senior at Newcastle that first year I was here, and Sam wanted to wait 1 year and then come down as a coach when Steve was going to be at IU. So obviously they had to have somebody for a year, and they got me. They told me it was a football school and would never survive. Well, I'm still here for 38. This is my 38th year at Bloomington South. So it's been a great time for me and my family, education-wise, the schools, the town. I couldn't have asked for more, except a few more wins. But that happens. I had a story about that too. But my assistant coach was Kyle Simpson, and he went to Southport as the head coach 7 years ago, I think it was. And so we went to New Albany that night. The first game, they were going to Brownsburg, and they got beat by about 40 points. And so he calls me on the bus. We're driving back. And he's crying. He's down the dumps. I don't know if I can do this or not. What do you think? And I said, wait a minute. Kyle, we just got beat by New Albany. That was my 301st loss. When you lose 300 more, call me back. So with all the wins, I probably got more losses than any coach in the history of Indiana also. What's the difference in basketball between a long time ago when I played and now? The goals are still 10 foot. They still got a bounce. They're supposed to call traveling. You know, the three-point line has made a big deal for small players. It really brought them back into being a valuable asset if you can shoot the three-point shot. But, you know, the kids are kids. They all want to play. Now, you have a little more interference with parents now than we did back then, because back in the olden days, the coach was God, almost. And almost. Well, just a little bit lower down than that spot. What you said was gospel, and nobody hardly ever questioned it. Now you can't hardly have practice unless somebody's feelings gets hurt, and they go home and tell your mom, and they call the principal on you or something. So that's changed a little bit, but I think kids really still want discipline. I think they do. I tell my team, there's two things that happens. One, I'm your coach and I've got great experience. And two, I'm your coach and I'm old-fashioned and I'm not going to give in to you. So we're going to do it one way. And we've tried to do it that way through my career. So basketball, has it changed much? Oh, a little. The uniform pants got real long, and now the uniform pants are coming back. Class basketball come in to play, which we didn't have back in the old days. When we won the sectional when I was a junior in high school, and you would thought we won the national NCAA championship. They drove us around in fire trucks. They had bonfires. They had meals every night. They forgot we set another game down in Jeffersonville that Saturday. So some schools do take it more serious. When I won my first sectional at Bloomington, we come back to the school, there was no one there. And so my brothers and sisters and my mom and dad live in Avoca, so we went down for dinner. So they had big signs on the yard and everything. And they said, where is the ceremony for winning the sectional? And I said, no, if I didn't win the sectional, they were going to fire me. So it was a different attitude of outside schools when you come from a small school or not. So basketball has been a great avenue for me. It's provided me lots and lots of different opportunities. We've had a lot of really good high school players, not really great NBA players yet. We've had some kids who went professionally overseas, but we've had a lot of great high school kids that don't go on to college to play sports, but they just bought into trying to be the best they could be at the time we're playing. And I think that if you do that, if you can convince them to play your way, whether your way is right or wrong, everybody has a way to score. Every team has a coach that doesn't buy into your way and get 5 guys going in your direction, then I think you'll have success. So I think that basketball in Indiana is pretty special. You mentioned the guys who put a video up when we won the game. Well, it really goes back to game number 800. The principal and the committee had all these shirts made up, had all this food and stuff, and we're going down the last seconds and we're behind. And finally, the kid from Castle finally missed the shot. No, he didn't miss the shot, to be honest with you. We double teamed him and the other guy missed a shot, and we won the game by 1 point, I think it was. So they had the celebration. I asked the principal, what are you going to do with this cake if we got beat? I would try to freeze it or something like that. I said, what about the shirts? I said, well, we didn't put a date on it. We're just going to, eventually we're going to get there. So that was smart thinking on his part. So, but in the final game of this regular season, when the record was able to obtain that, the video, my brother and my son and Kyle Simpson contacted all these coaches across the country, Roy Williams from North Carolina and the ones he mentioned, and Sampson from Houston, and a bunch of them. And it was really nice that they took time to record 30 seconds or 40 seconds tribute. And it's not me. It never has been me. It's the players, it's assistant coaches, it's having positive, great superintendents that allows you to coach. You've had great principals that allow you to do things. Now, don't get me wrong, I've had some bad superintendents, and I've had some bad principals, but I've outlasted those people. So now I'm to the point where I got great ones. So I told Dr. DeMuth, she can't retire until I get ready to, and she said, well, don't leave until I'm going too, so we're going out together. But I only had one go. I had a go to coach for 5 years, because I have a degree in mathematics, and I thought, well, I got to be smart enough to take that degree and get rich. And that didn't work out. So then my next goal was I wanted to win a section. I was at Tunnelton and Mitchell, playing against Bedford and playing against Bloomington. Small school, just really hard to do that. And then we won one, then we won two, then we won three. Well, I sort of liked that. And then we got 2 regionals. And then we've been in 5 Final Fours. I think that's the most of any school that with one coach. Maybe Marion might have 5 there. I don't know who it was. Bob could probably tell you. He has all those stats. But that's what I'm most impressed with. Is we've been in 5 Final Fours. And kids have got to realize the great time that we had in those situations. And then people kept saying, when are you going to get out? I said, I want to coach 1,000 games. Well, that was about 200 ago. Then so the next goal was, I want to coach 50 years. It never was the goal to be the winningest coach. My goal was to coach now 50 years. And this is my 50th year as a high school basketball coach. So after this in March, it will be a day by day, week by week, year by year. And I may go 5 or 10 more. I don't know. You ready to go that long, Dr. DeMuth? No. But it can maybe be done in March. I don't know. Depends on how bad that is. She may fire me. I don't know. But, that was my goal, never to be the winningest coach. It never was even realistically in my mind when I started out at Tunnelton High School. So I started coaching for 3 reasons. When I was in high school, my coach, he had all these keys. And he could get in the gym whenever he wanted to. He could get the basketballs out when he wanted to. He was about 27. So I wanted him keys. And the second thing was, his wife was good looking as crazy, man. So I had to get a good looking wife. And the third thing I really wanted to do in getting coaching was, I had my summers off. Well, I'm going to tell you, that didn't work out. The first 2 worked out. I got all these keys now. I got a master key here that takes care of all of them instead of all of them like in the old days. My wife's good looking, but the summers off didn't ever work out. You still had to eat in the summertime, so I taught in that. So thanks for having me. I'll be glad to answer any questions about basketball per se, or my career, or Bloomington South basketball, or whatever. If I don't know, I'll lie to you. Yes, sir.
JR, you've got a player right now destined to come to IU. He's an incoming senior in Anthony Leal. What kind of challenges and what kind of opportunities does that present to the Bloomington South Panthers?
Well, I just hope he's as good as IU thinks he is. He's a really good player. He's got great size. He can shoot. To go on to college like any high school player, unless you're George McGinnis, strength will be a factor for him. He's got to get stronger, and he's working at that, and he has to become more consistent. But he's a very confident player. I think that he had opportunities to go to Stanford and Northwestern, Butler. He had all kinds of opportunities, and he chose Indiana. And I have mixed emotions. I hope it works out, but it's really hard sometimes to go in your hometown if you don't do well, or that sometimes the expectations on you are a little bit higher. And I talked to him and his family about that, and this is what he wanted to do, so that's where he's going. So I think he'll give him 100% and make Bloomington South proud. Yes, sir.
The continuing threat of the shoe money toward the amateur athletics, particularly basketball.
Well, we get a little. We're sponsored by Under Armour. We don't get any money, but we get some product. The summer stuff, I think they're trying to get back under control after they lost complete control of it. It's hard for high schools, when I tell a player, we're going to do this, we're going to take a trip to Richmond. Okay, that's a big deal. I went to Las Vegas, New York, and Texas over the summertime, playing basketball. I think that's what it brought kids expecting the same thing in high schools, and most high schools financially cannot do that, provide all the stuff that they get in the summertime. So I think it is a problem. I think you're going to see some colleges get in some big trouble here. I hear they're now taking it to court over 3 or 4 of the universities that they're bringing up. So we've been fortunate enough to have a sponsor since we won the state in 2009 that provides us with some shoes and practice stuff and stuff like that. But I didn't get any money. I wish they'd paid me $1 million. You could have fired me. No. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's true or not, but the legend is, right, the 76 IU team, Knight said wasn't his best team, even though we think of them as the best. So I'm curious for you, you have the undefeated season, Jordan Hall's. Do you think that is your best team, or would you say, no, we've got a few that rank ahead of it?
Well, my wife would shoot me if I didn't say my son's team was pretty good. They were 24-1 or something, got beat by a team in Chicago in the regular season. I think my most talented team was a team in 2010, between the 2 championships. We had D. Davis, who went to Xavier, and we had Matt Carlino, who went to UCLA. We had Spencer Turner, who went to Belmont. We had Eric Fromm, who went to Butler. And then our forward was Joey Forney, and he went to Xavier for baseball. So we had 5 Division I players. And, that team was really, really good. They got lucked out against it for such a thing. We had cramps in the second game of the regional. And sometimes, you can see things coming. We were up 11 points in the game, and some kid throws one in from about 50 foot at the buzzer. Now you're still up 8 points, but you could tell the momentum switched a little bit. And then we were up 5 or 6 points at the end of the third quarter, and some kid throws it in from about 30 foot. So it cuts it down to 2 or 3, I forget. Those shots aren't supposed to go in, and we went and got beat on the last second shot. So I think that was my most talented team. And in sports, I think sometimes you're supposed to win, although I think sometimes you're supposed to lose. We got beat in my son's senior year. We got beat on a 3-pointer at the buzzer in Hinkle Fieldhouse that forced overtime. And, bad luck, or we would have been state champs then. We won the state in 2009 when I had 2 kids go to the free throw line in the last 40 seconds of the game in front of 17,000 people with a state championship, undefeated season on line, and they shot 50% in the regular season. I was just hoping they'd hit the rim. Maybe we'd get the rebound. And David Blackwell goes up, just smiling, like you're supposed to do that. And he shoots 48%. How's he hit 2 shots in front of 17,000 people? Then they found the Molnix kid 30 seconds later, and we win the game. And so I take that as we're supposed to win that one. Maybe we weren't supposed to win the next year for some reason. And you get lessons in losses, you get lessons in victories. If I had my brother, I'd like to get my lessons taught to me in victories, but sometimes we go the other way. Yes, sir?
What do you think about class basketball?
I don't think a whole lot about it anymore. I think it was not a great thing in one sense. I came from a small school, so I know the challenges of winning sectionals. If I was the boss, I would still have the 4 classes and let everybody have a chance to win a sectional and a regional, and then bring those 16 teams into Indianapolis, blind draw, and have one state champion. And that's what I always was proposed to do that. Because I played at Needmore, I coached at Tunnelton. When you won a sectional, your life was changed in those towns. So I understand that, and I know you can't win one at Needmore very often or Tunnelton very often if everybody was in the same sectional. Does class basketball hurt us? Not really, because in the 4A school, basically all it does is you don't have an easy sectional team anymore. Your sectionals are like regionals, and your regionals like a semi-state, then you go to the state finals. So it doesn't really affect us as much. I still think I'd like to have one state champion.
JR, you mentioned the pressure free throws that Blackwell made in front of 17,000 people. I can think of very few jobs where adults have to perform with 17,000 pairs of eyes watching their every move. Seems to me that's incredible pressure, and we talked briefly here about Romeo Langford at the table and the attention that he got. What do you as a coach do to help your players handle that?
Well, we practice. We try to put pressure on them in practice. If they put them in situations, game's tied, here's one, you're down one, but still it's not the pressure of 17,000 people in a state championship. And, I think some players can handle it and some just can't. I can name different examples. Well, I'll tell you how I got the job at Bloomington, in case you want to know. We were playing Bloomington South when I was at Mitchell. Bloomington South was 22-1 or 22-2 with a great team, ranked number 1 or 2 in the state. And they had beaten us like 40 points in the regular season. But we went to the sectional, and they played Bedford in the semifinal game and had a fight after the game on the floor and the stands. And we knew we were going to play in the championship game. So when the officials come out the next night, they wouldn't let Bloomington press us. So we were able to stay in the game. And so we brought the ball down. So we're up 3 points with a minute to go in the sectional championship against Bloomington South, who's number 2 team in the state. They foul my free throw shooter, who's 80%, missed it. And they go down and score. So now we're up 1. They come down, they foul the same kid. And I'm thinking, man, this guy, he'll be ready this time. Missed it. And they go down and score, and we get beaten in the section by 1 point. So, some kids can handle it, some can't. It's terrible if you don't do well and people blame you. The point that you didn't score in the first minute of the game is just as important as the point you don't score at the end of the game, but people remember the one at the end of the game. So, it's a cruel sport at times, but it's a great sport at times. And I've been fortunate enough to have a lot more greatness than the cruelty of it. Yes, ma'am?
I'm sorry, I don't really know you, nor do I follow basketball particularly, but I am very curious how you learn your basketball teaching skills, and who taught you, and talk about some of your basketball coaches in your background.
Well, first when I talked about the keys and the good-looking wife and the summers off, that was my high school coach, and I always admired him. My dad hired him. My dad was trustee, and I just thought he was the greatest thing in the world. Now, my brother hated him because my brother got kicked off, and he was always in trouble and everything else. Same family, but anyway, he was my idol as a coach. And then when I went to college, I was fortunate enough to get a graduate assistantship, and I was with Fred Fleetwood and Mel Garland and Gordon Stauffer at Indiana State for 1 year. and I helped coach the freshman team at the college. And through that, then I got my first head job at Tunnelton. And that comes back when I was in biddy basketball. My dad started the biddy basketball program at Needmore, and you played at lunchtime. And so you're always playing and figuring out, I was always drawing plays and stuff like that. And then my dad built a blacktop court so we could play with lights on at night. And so I think that was, I'm always playing and always figuring out how to play to get better and try to work that into my dealings with coaching. So I got the job. I interviewed for the job. My first head job I interviewed for at Tunnelton. But it was one school board at Bedford that hired all the different county schools. And so I go into this meeting, and I know most of these people in the meeting. My dad knew most of them, and so we go through the interview. This is a true story now. And he says, "Oh, you did a good job. We'll let you know." Well, I walk out the door, and I walk out the thing, and I hear the window raised. And the guy in the head of the school board said, "Hey, you got the job." So he closed it. I said, "Okay." I don't know. I said, "All right, I'm the head coach at Tunnelton." So that was a good time. That's true, too. Any other question? Yes?
You coached in Lawrence County in some very small schools and small districts. What would you say about the inequities that are in our public education system? At a school like Mitchell and many other things, in addition to sports, cannot compete with what Bloomington South can offer in culture and arts and music.
I think that's the answer. We have such more things here offered to us, more choices in foreign languages and sciences that we never had that. You can tell by my speaking skills, we didn't have a whole lot of English help either. But at the small schools, I think that's the biggest drawback, is you don't have those opportunities that you can have here in Bloomington now, that our school system offers us, and so on. Yes?
How many of your players have become coaches themselves, or athletic trainers, or something related to basketball? Or is that something you follow at all?
No, I watched the Final Four game in 2012, which is one of my favorite games to watch, against North Central, when they had 5 Division I, and it was a slugfest. We won. They had a timeout. I remember looking at the timeout. There's Matt Seifers, who was the head coach at Bedford. There was Kyle Simpson, the head coach at Southport. There was Heath Howling, head coach at North Posey. There's, who else was there? Aaron Parker turned down a head job to stay in Bloomington because he had such a great deal at his job. So I have 5, 6, 7, or 8 that's been head coaches. And head coaching's hard. I think they say the average is about 4 or 5 years to stay in coaching. So I'm a real old dinosaur at 50 years. There's just, I think the biggest problem now is that we're going to run into is officials. There's just not a lot of people getting into officiating in all sports. I mean, we have a shortage right now, in gymnastics and wrestling and a lot of the sports. And a lot of our older officials are getting out, and the younger officials they just don't want to take the crap, to be honest, that's thrown at them in games and hollered at and screamed at. And that's a big push by the IHSA, is that we're really struggling to keep officials involved in the games. And you got to have them. No matter how bad they are, you got to have them. One more question, he says. Yes?
How do you manage parents that tend to have better ideas for what their kids should do than you do? You see a lot of that in the news.
I send them to Dr. DeMuth and tell her to take care of it. No, it's that's hard. Because I tell all my coaches, I think you should or have an obligation to meet with that parent. Now, the meeting doesn't always go well, but you get their view, you hear it, then we move on. That's what I tell the parents that I've met with, that we may not come to an agreement here, but I'm the coach. And if you think that I'm so bad for your son or daughter, then you need to take him off the team. Because, see, sports is not, we don't have to let you be on the sport team. We may have to let you take English, and we gotta let you take math, but we don't have to let you play sports. That's a fun thing. That's a thing that you're able to come in extracurricular. So I think that you have to do that, and you have to have great backing by your people above you, that if they take it to the next step above me as coach, to the athletic director, to the principal, and then eventually over across the street to the administration building for due processes. I think that you have to have people that understand and been involved and know that that coaches have to have some authority. Now, I will say in some of the meetings, I have learned some things. I wouldn't admit it to the parent, but I did learn some things from different ones of them at that time. Hey, seriously, thanks. I appreciate the opportunity to come here. Thanks for all you do in the community. And again, if you really get bored, 1965 South Walnut on a Friday night, I almost will say I'll let you in free, but I've got to worry about the money at the gate, because I got to do that. Come down and watch the Panthers. Thank you very much.
Wait, stay up here. Stay up here. Please wait up here.
Okay.
Thank you. And Phil Eskew and Jim Bright.
JR, in appreciation for the many lives, and you think about over 50 years how many young men he has influenced. You've touched as a high school basketball coach, athletic director, and educator. On behalf of the 110 women and men of the Bloomington Rotary Club, it's my honor and pleasure to recognize you today as a Paul Harris Fellow. The award is named for Paul Harris, the founder of Rotary 114 years ago in Evanston, Illinois. Today, the Rotary organization has grown to 1.2 million members, 35,000 clubs, and over 200 countries. In addition to 1 million Rotarians throughout the world and to many Paul Harris Fellows that are in the room, you will now stand with such notables as Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela, Prince Charles, Indira Gandhi, Pope Paul John II, President Jimmy Carter, astronaut James Lovell, Dr. Jonas Salk, Dr. Larry Rink, Ron Remack, and Betty Rismalis as Paul Harris Fellows. On behalf of the trustees of the Rotary Foundation, it's my pleasure to present you with the emblems of a Paul Harris Fellow. And in here somewhere. They were right here. There we go. There we go. You're going to put the pen on. This is your certificate. Thank you. Let's turn it around and we'll get a picture. Get in here, do some cheese.
Yes. Next week, we will be back in the Frangipani room to hear from Molly Barwick on responsible gun control practices. And next week's Roundabout reporter will be Bill Oates again. Thought of the week from my favorite mathematician, Yogi Berra. You better cut the pizza in 4 pieces because I'm not hungry enough to eat 6. So, please rise and recite the 4-way test with me. Of the things you think, say, or do, first is the truth, Is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Fifth, is it fun?